group of young people relaxing. It looks like an ordinary youth group. But these youngsters aren't as typical as they look. They're inmates in Denmark's newest and most revolutionary state prison. The prison's at Ringe, near Odense, and from the outside at least, it's like any other penal institution. It's surrounded by a high wall and tight security precautions which shut it off from society. Only staff, like this warder arriving for duty, can pass freely in and out, and even they have to be checked through.
Ja, det vogn Sølbæk. Kan jeg få lov at komme ind? Det vogn Sølbæk. Kan jeg få lov at komme ind?
Ja, værsgo.
Tak.
Inside the walls, though, Ringe's far from being a conventional prison. For one thing, security is tight around the perimeter, but pretty lax elsewhere. It's the hope of the prison authorities that they can create as normal an environment as possible inside, while using the walls and a sophisticated electronic guard system to keep inmates from escaping. Within, it doesn't look much like a jail. In fact, the governor says it resembles an open prison surrounded by a wall. Its 6 accommodation wings are more like a group of chalets than a conventional prison block, and there are no bars on the windows. Each inmate has his own room, sharing cooking and other facilities. There's a workshop where prisoners are encouraged to work, though they aren't forced to. By working hard, they can earn up to 50 Danish crowns a day, around $8 US. That's far more than in most jails, and the money's paid to them by a local bank each week, not saved up till they leave. There's a training scheme to help prisoners earn a living when they're released, but some of the work is as routine and as boring as in conventional prisons, such as repairing mail bags for the Danish post office. One of the key differences in Ringe, of course, is that it's a mixed prison with both male and female offenders. They work side by side during the day and mix socially at night. And as far as possible, they're permitted to relate to each other as they would do outside. The objective, say the government's sociologists and criminologists, is to recreate, within the walls, the kind of environment that exists outside, thus reducing the tensions that inevitably build up in a normal single-sex prison. The inmates in Ringe are mainly under 30, and it's the government's hope that all young offenders who must be kept in a closed prison will come here at some stage, unless they require special attention and treatment elsewhere. There's nothing extraordinary about the work the inmates do, making Disneyland Christmas cards or furniture or mending mailbags. Though it is unusual for male and female prisoners to work together and for them to get paid as well as they do at Ringe. But it's in the social sphere that this prison is really different. All the inmates, for example, cook their own food, apart from those who are unable or unwilling to work, who get their meals brought from another prison nearby every day. The others get a special food allowance and cater for themselves. It's up to them when and what they eat. The inmates in this wing agreed to let our cameras come in to film them, working, cooking and relaxing, and that was a decision taken by their own committee and not by the prison governor. Even so, some of them didn't want to be filmed. Ringe may be a very modern prison with its mixed population and its easy regulations, but it's still a prison, and its inmates are still criminals under Danish law. Many of the people here have been convicted under Denmark's drug abuse laws, and there's tight security on mail and on outside visits to ensure that no drugs can enter the prison. Apart from that, however, the prisoners lead as normal a life as possible. Though the law says they've got to be locked away, Denmark's criminologists hope that a modern prison like Ringe will help them to adapt more easily, so that when they're released, they'll merge without difficulty into society on the outside. By the standards of prisons and criminology in most other countries, it's an amazingly advanced concept. A mixed population and little discipline in the conventional sense, even though each prisoner is locked away at night. It's clear that reform, rather than retribution, is the key to Danish penal philosophy. We asked some of the inmates how they felt about the system.
I've been here for 3 months, and I'm gonna stay here 2 months more. I come from a jail in Copenhagen. It was a big prison where we only sit alone, so this is very good for people when they can stay together with another. It's an experiment with a woman or a man in jail, and some people seems it's good and some people seems it's bad. It's not easy to get a girlfriend here because there's not a lot of them. It will be better if we could take half and half, and that's the way. The private is not good here. They open your letters and see what they write from the outside of the wall.
Yes, I have a boyfriend here, and we can meet one time every day to a sport and sit and hold in hands and so. But I think it's a good idea there's so many men and so little girls, because you can do what you want here with the boys if you can get with it, and so there's no of the guards who are interested how much money a man you make love with, and so, for example, it's a good thing here. And so I think it's the only best thing I can say about this place, because it's a jail, and there's no good to say about jail.
Jeg synes, det er skide godt, at jeg får gennemført det besøg, så Per kan besøge mig på min afdeling om aftenen.
This couple welcomed the opportunity to spend time together alone. They get an hour totally to themselves each night.
Sammen med alle de andre, så kan vi bare være Per og mig inde på mit værelse.
There's only been one marriage so far between inmates of Ringe, but the administration does nothing to discourage romances flowering, believing perhaps that it can only help in the rehabilitation of the people under its care. The prisoners here, then, clearly think the system is better than in other jails, and that's borne out by the fact that there have been no serious problems with escape attempts, while there's a demand from inmates elsewhere to be moved to Ringe or to have similar facilities provided.
The Director General supported us in this idea. And,
so how then does the prison's governor, Erik Andersen, sum up the Ringe experiment?
In this country, we have only a few women in prison. Totally, we have about 70, 80 or so. And the idea is that in this prison we should receive all women who have to stay in a closed prison. This is a closed prison surrounded by a wall and so. This system has worked in a year, and we have had no special difficulties in this. And as a whole, I can say that we talk much less about this inside the walls than outside the walls. Outside the walls, we have seen that the newspapers, TV stations and so on have been very interested in knowing everything about this, and there has been a feeling of sensation about this. But here it is only daily life, just in the same way as it is daily life outside the walls. Men and women live together outside the walls also.
Denmark's long had a reputation for progressive social ideas, and Ringe's yet another example of that. It's still too early to assess whether it's a success, but if it is, it will make a major contribution to the whole problem of how to treat convicted lawbreakers and, at the same time, how to prepare them to resume life outside.